Hello Internet, I am the hero of Julios, again this week with another One Piece video. So, I was wrong last week. There's a break in the chapters, so I figured why not take this as an opportunity to do a video that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but hadn't gotten around to it back when I was doing YouTube the first time. So this time I'm gonna give my opinion. It's kind of a more somber note compared to other videos I've tried to do in the past. I would like to do a top 9 list. This time, you can tell by the title of the video, I would like to rank the Straw Hats sad, tragic anime backstories in order from least traumatizing to most. Because, you can't be a member of the Straw Hat crew unless something terrible happened in your childhood. It seems to be a job requirement, if I'm being honest. And because of that, I figured it'd be a good idea to rank them in order. For those of you wondering why 9, that's because I am going to go with up to the Whole Cake Island arc, mainly because of, I've had this idea in my head for a long time. I wanted to do 9 because, there are 9 Straw Hats, so that's how I'm going to do that. For those of you who know why 9, I would like to do, when One Piece is over, I would like to reassess this list and do it again later. So without further ado, I'm going to start with my first opinion. Number 9, Luffy. So it's hard to rank what is sad and what is not sad when in the grand scheme of things. Because, as we know, Luffy lost Sabo. Sabo died all the way back when Luffy was a little kid, just after he got his devil fruit, and before that his mentor lost his arm, and Luffy had to live with that sadness for, all this time, finally eventually learning that Sabo survived. Sabo's death was something that was sad, but Luffy had Ace. Luffy had someone near and dear to him, just as close as Sabo was, to help him get through that trying time. As a result, I feel like Luffy has the least tragic childhood of the Straw Hat crew. Number 8, Zorro. So again, it's hard to say that the loss of a loved one or a friend isn't as traumatizing as someone else's sadness, but compared to everyone else, Zorro lost his best friend, and he carries on her will through his sword that she died, the sword she left behind. His sensei let him take it, and now it's, one of his 3 main swords. Again, it's hard to say that it's not as traumatizing as the other Straw Hats, but in the grand scheme of things, Zorro still holds her near and dear. He still has her sword. He still has that memory of her, but it's not like he lost his family. He lost, a brother or something. He lost his best friend. I've lost, people before too, and I'm not, again, not diminishing it. But the only reason I rank it as sadder than Luffy is, yes, Zorro had Kuina's father to, be with him and cope with him, but it's a lot easier when it's someone your age. So with Luffy having Ace while he grew up, while he matured, he was able to, still have the connection of a brother, whereas Zorro lost the connection of a best friend, lost the connection of a rival, lost the connection to someone better than him. Because as we know in Zorro's backstory, he even was beating adults in the dojo. So he lost his only way of sharpening and getting better because his only goal was gone. And until he was old enough to set out to see himself, Mihawk wasn't really something he could spar against and, try better for. So with that, that's why I rank Zorro as a little sadder than Luffy, but not quite as sad. as number 7, Usopp. So, again, Usopp's is sadder than Zorro and Luffy because his dad went out to sea, so he didn't have a dad. And his only family, his mother, died before him of a sickness. So he would run around the town every day for the rest of his childhood into adulthood, screaming that the pirates are coming. It's sad. It's really sad to lose your mother. I don't think anyone should lose their parents. I mean, in a perfect world, nobody would lose anyone. I feel it's sadder than Zorro's and Luffy's because a child losing their parent is a pretty heavy thing to go through. I'm glad growing up I didn't lose anyone at a super young age like that. So I know that was kind of a brief one, but I'm just gonna move on from this one. Number 6. So Frankie's got a pretty sad story, pretty messed up one. You know, his little inventive mind got him chucked off the boat from his parents, who are pirates. I have other theories as to perhaps we'll see Frankie's pirate parents again, because we never get a confirmation that they're dead. So it's pretty safe to assume that maybe they're out there somewhere still being pirates. I wouldn't doubt it. I really wouldn't. But all that being said, eventually Frankie was scooped up by Tom, and Tom taught him how to be a shipwright, inspired him to, you know, use that creative energy and create things and make boats and make, you know, his countless battle Frankies. And for a while, you know, things were happy. Frankie went from the low of being abandoned by his parents to once again finding a pseudo parent to having his own creations used in a horrible scheme that caused his mentor not only great physical pain, but cost him his life in the end. The sea train took Tom away and took him to Enies Lobby, where we all know that courtroom is empty. When you get there, there's no turning back. You are just judged guilty, and Tom was probably sentenced to death for assisting the Pirate King. The only chance that Tom may have had was that the 5 elders, the Gorosei, they want the Pluton, and they know Tom is a shipwright capable of making it, so there may be a chance Tom is alive. But we're talking about the backstory, not what is to come. And as a child, even as a teenager, having your mentor, your only father figure, taken from you, going somewhere where you will never see him again. At least Usopp knew his mom was dead and buried. At least Zorro knows Kuina is dead and buried. At least Luffy knew that Sabo was dead and buried. Frankie had to live the rest of his life never knowing if Tom was really gone. And I think the pain and the anticipation of not knowing is worse than being able to accept and move on that they're dead. So, I'm gonna need to play some sad music. I just realized that midway through the video. I'm gonna edit it in, but yeah. So anyways, let's move on to number 5, Sanji. So it was kind of a tough choice between number 5 and number 4, and I'll be able to explain it in more detail when I get to number 4. So as I said, I'm going with all the way to Whole Cake Island, you know, to the end of it. So for those of you who have not read the Whole Cake Island chapters, have not gone through that arc, I will put a number in my description. You guys can skip number 5 and go straight to 4. Just know that Sanji, I feel, is the 5th saddest Straw Hat. When you word it like that, it's the 5th saddest. Anyways, now that the people who are avoiding spoilers are gone, Sanji's childhood was kind of messed up. You know, he was genetically engineered along with 3 brothers but his mom took a drug that weakened her body in exchange for at least giving one of her children a sense of humanity. So, not only did Sanji grow up with a sickly mother and 3 superhuman brothers who beat the crap out of him every day, but his mom died, and his brothers continued to beat on him, and his dad rejected him, and then his dad put an iron mask on him and locked him in a dungeon and pretended he died. And then his brothers would come down to that dungeon and beat the crap out of him further. And then his only opportunity to escape this hellish life was to run from his family in the middle of an open attack in the East Blue, which resulted in him getting onto a cruise ship that, he ended up being an apprentice chef on, only to have that cruise ship sink to the bottom of the ocean. Fortunately for Sanji, this is like the one fortunate part, the pirate captain of the crew took pity on him because they shared the same dream of finding the All Blue. Only to have the 2 of them washed up on a rock and almost starved to death. So, basically the first 8 years of Sanji's life sucked. And the reason why he's not ranked higher on the list because of all this is because once he and Zeph finally got saved, made it to, the Baratier, Sanji pretty much lived out a good life from there on, up until, meeting Luffy and causing this entire adventure to go the way it went. So, while every Straw Hat on this list has led a sad childhood, they all had a fairly okay adulthood. And this is going to reflect in number 4 as well. But I still feel that Sanji's, again, this was a very hard toss-up, but I still feel like Sanji's isn't as sad as number 4, Chopper. So I know what you're thinking. Chopper's sad backstory is he was a blue-nosed reindeer, and all of the other reindeer would laugh and call him names, and then they'd beat the crap out of him. Seems to be a theme. And he was, forced to walk 6 paces behind the rest of the herd, only to eventually eat a devil fruit. Now, as we know, animals can eat devil fruits. Chopper, however, got to eat the human fruit, which would have been an interesting devil fruit to see a human eat, because it would give them like an enlightened state of mind. What a human fruit does for an animal is grant them human intelligence. So now Chopper gets to be a blue-nosed reindeer hated by the rest of the herd, and now he's aware that the rest of the herd hates him. Isn't that great? With this devil fruit though, now he can turn into a human. Wonderful. He's gonna go meet the other humans and stuff. His human form looks like a yeti in a land of snow. So now he's a blue-nosed reindeer, rest of the herd hates him, humans hate him, and everyone he meets wants him dead. And he's an animal who just gained human intelligence, so the ability to process this problem is there, but there's no previous education to help him get there. Up until he meets Dr. Luke. And again, this is where it goes from a sadness lull to like a super height of happiness, only to be immediately crashed down again by not just Wapol, but by Dr. Luke himself, in my opinion. To prevent Chopper from growing attached to a dying man, Luke throws him out. And again, doesn't explain to him why, because, it's going to traumatize the kid. As a result, Chopper goes on a dangerous quest, gets the poisonous mushroom that he thinks is the cure because he misunderstood the symbol of pirates is also the symbol of poison, gave Dr. Luke the mushroom, and in a jest of kindness, knowing that he was going to die anyways, Luke ate the poisoned mushroom so that Chopper would think he cured him. Then Luke went, faced Wapol, gave his speech, one of the best speeches in One Piece in my opinion, and died. in an explosion in front of Chopper. From that point on, Chopper was raised by Dr. Kureha and learned medicine and lived a relatively peaceful life up until Luffy showed up and helped defeat Wapol, and, you know, now they are where they are. So again, I feel like the reason Chopper's is sadder than Sanji's is because Chopper doesn't understand why his life sucked. It's, you know, like when you take your animal to the vet, you stick them in a little cage. I put Mocha, you know, in the little cat carrier, and my cat meows and complains the entire time, when in reality, I know it's just to make sure you're okay. She thinks I'm dragging her to the underworld, and then she loves the vet. Like, nothing but cuddles the entire time. So all that whining for nothing. Stick her back in the cat carrier, whining all the way back home. This is a different tangent now, and I apologize. But my cat, sometimes. But yes, in conclusion, that's the reason why I feel Chopper's is sadder than Sanji's, is that even though they both lost a very important person and were beaten up by their, you know, by their family basically their entire lives, I feel like Chopper's is sadder due to just the lack of knowing why. But none of them compare to number 3, Nami. Nami's is sad for just all sorts of reasons, mostly messed up ones, but so Nami's an orphan, so's Nojiko. They were raised by Bellamere, and they lived a pretty okay life. I mean, they were poor, but they were happy. That's when Arlong arrives. And so not only did Arlong take over her town, not only did Arlong kill her mother, where her mother's last words to her were, "I love you," but Arlong took away her freedom. With that taking away of her freedom, Arlong said, "Hey, here's a way to buy back your freedom." So Nami spent the next 8 years of her life stealing from pirates, risking her life, you know, getting chased constantly, friend and foe alike. There was no one to trust, up until she finally met Luffy. Now, I think the reason that this is sadder than Chopper, the reason I feel this is sadder than Sanji, is that Nami, from the start of her tragic to the end of her tragic, was a constant state of tragedy. Sanji had time to heal before meeting Luffy. Chopper had time to heal before meeting Luffy. There were still scars there. There were still wounds that needed to be helped. But everyone who has joined Luffy's crew had had time to get over this ordeal. And the last 3 on this list have not. So I feel that that's why Nami's is sadder than Chopper's and Sanji's. However, Nami's is not nearly as sad, in my opinion, as numbers 2 and 1. Now stop, I know what you're thinking. Numbers 2 and 1. The only reason I want to do these two simultaneously is because I know I would get a lot of slack for not explaining in comparison why I think number 1 is worse than number 2. Personally, I think the second saddest Straw Hat backstory is Robin's. And my reason for that is because of Brook's entire backstory. So, for context, Robin was a little girl, 8 years old, had the devil fruit, you know, the flower fruit. And with her power, you know, she can sprout limbs everywhere. She was considered a monster by her aunt and her uncle and the rest of the island, and could only find solace in the scholars of Ohara. But even they had to keep secrets from her, such as how to read poneglyphs. However, thanks to her devil fruit, she was able to read them. This will be important in a moment. These scholars were her only friends. She still had to go home to her aunt, who treated her like a dog, left her only scraps of food to eat and only gave her like a rag for clothing. But she still had, the scholars, until one day her mom finally came home, being chased by the Marines. A little before that, Robin got to meet a giant named Saul, who befriended her and didn't realize that she was the daughter of Nico Olvia, who Saul helped escape, and the Marines are chasing to this island, where all the scholars are who know how to read poneglyphs, which is illegal, for reasons we still don't know. As a result, a buster call was engaged. Now, I've never gone through this kind of trauma, but to witness at the age of 8 the genocide of your home, the erasing of your island, and then the only friend outside of the scholars who ever treated you like a human being frozen solid before your very eyes. That's traumatic. Even more traumatic is being forced out to sea at the age of 8. Imagine, we live on a continental kind of planet, but imagine if you lived in California and then the very next day California got wiped off the map and you had to move to China. And everyone in China wanted to kill you because your head's worth millions and millions of dollars. Who do you trust? Who do you confide in? What do you do? And that's what Robin had to go through. She had to cheat people, she had to lie to people, she couldn't trust anyone, she had to join criminal organizations, and eventually it all led up to working for Crocodile, which led to now being a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. There was no way out of this life as Robin saw it. The reason I feel that that's not as sad as Brooks is because Robin still had her autonomy. Yeah, her only choices were to run, but she still had the choice to run. Now, going backwards, Brooks' backstory. Brooke was a member of a pirate crew. Before that, we know he was a member of a royal guard. We still don't know a lot about the royal guard that Brooke was a member of. I would like to know more about it. I feel like it might have something to tie into, the current Reverie arc that's going on, perhaps. But all that being said is a little irrelevant right now. Brooke lived a pretty joyous life with his crew, eventually, befriending a little whale named Laboon. The Grand Line was too dangerous, so they promised Laboon that they would meet him on the other side after they finished circumnavigating the world. Then a disease struck, and half the crew was basically good as dead. So, splitting the crew in half, those who were sick went one way, Brooke took the ones who weren't sick and continued their journey, knowing that they had to get back to Laboon. Now, after that, things went well for a little bit, till they realized they were definitely in over their heads on the Grand Line. It's called the Pirates' Graveyard for a reason. And mind you, this is before Gold Roger even conquered the Grand Line. So, as of right now, it was considered undoable. Like, you could not do it. You were going to die. 0% of pirates who entered the Grand Line conquered it at this point. Now it's like a really, 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 really small percentage, like 1 in all. But regardless, eventually another crew overtook Brooks' pirates, and with their bodies filled with poisoned arrows, the crew came up with one last thing to do. Sing. They sang Laboon's favorite song, and they recorded it on a tone dial. Their entire mission with this song was to gamble that Brooks' devil fruit worked. That Brooke would, come back to life, grab the tone dial, take the ship, and find a way to get that song to Laboon. And they were right. Brook did come back to life. Not in the way you would expect with the devil fruit, though. His soul came back from the other side. And because of the Florian Triangle, Brook was unable to find his body right away. His soul searched for a year before coming across a skeleton with his afro. Unfortunately, without proper burial, body decays actually quite quickly, especially in the elements, the salton sea of the ocean. So Brook, being afraid of ghosts and skeletons, mind you, was stuck in the body of a skeleton, surrounded by the dead bodies of his friends, the crew that he had grown to love and care for over these years. To make matters worse, the rudder of the ship was damaged, unable to move on. So he was stuck adrift the fog of the Florian Triangle for 50 years. Now, I'm not going to say that Robin didn't go through hell. Like, neither of these two I would ever wish upon even my greatest enemy. But Robin could still make choices. Robin still could talk to other people. Even if she was only pretending to like them, Robin could still enjoy things. As we saw with, when Luffy was fighting Crocodile and Robin was letting out a giggle. We know that thanks to Saul teaching her to smile as a child, that Robin could still find at least a little bit of happiness now and then. Brook could go nowhere. Brook could do nothing. He could do nothing but sit there and wait to die again. Honestly, with his anatomy, I don't even know if Brook can die of old age. He's already 90 in the series, so I feel Brooks is definitely the saddest of the Straw Hat backstories, for simply the reason of no autonomy. He was stuck, trapped in his mind, trapped in his own mind with his own thoughts, surrounded by the dead bodies of the people he loved, constantly reminding him that Laboon might not even be there when he gets back. Now, in my opinion, this leads to Brook and Robin having the most joyous joinings of the Straw Hat crew, with basically, years and years of suffering finally paying off in what seems to be like the greatest pirate crew to ever sail the seas. But up until meeting Luffy, both of them have the saddest stories, with, in my opinion, Brook being the saddest. Now, this is just my opinion. If you disagree, if you agree, let me know. People usually have comment sections, so yeah, go type something in there. I don't know where YouTube will put it if they update again, but for now, it's located below the video. I promise next week, there'll be a new chapter. The next time I do a non-chapter related One Piece video, I will pick a much more upbeat topic, but this is something I've always wanted to rank. This is something I've always wanted to do. So thank you for watching, and this is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.